I didn't even know that sleepwalking was a real thing. Sure, I've heard about it, and I see it in movies and TV shows here and there, but I've never even heard of anyone who actually did it in real life. So imagine my surprise when one random morning after I'd just settled into my new job, I found a random girl. She stirred in her silk pajamas, yawned, looked at me with wide eyes, and blinked a few times before mumbling, "I did it again, didn't I?" Color me confused. Did what again? I asked her, the worst scenario already playing in my head. You. What? Who are you? She blushed. Oh, geez. It's not what you think. At least I don't think so. When she saw the horror on my face, she laughed. I'm joking. I got in last night while you were already asleep, so I never got the chance to introduce myself. I'm Kelly, your roommate. Well, I sleepwalk. I took a second to make sense of what she just said. And then I took the handshake she was offering. Andrew, I said. Nice to meet you, Kelly. I guess. I'd just become a senior in my all-boys college and was looking for something to do with my spare time when my advisor told me about an immediate opening in our sister school's dorms. Ever thought of being a dorm manager? Miss Dibley asked me. I mean, it usually comes with accommodations, right? And 2 meals, she said. They couldn't find anyone to do it from their own students, unfortunately. The girls in the dorm are... well, how do I put it? Rowdy. Nothing I can't handle for free rent and hot meals, I laughed. Now, they usually don't allow boys on campus, but since we're sister schools, they're willing to forego those rules. They're a bit desperate to find a dorm manager at this point, said Miss Dibley, typing on her phone as she talked. Sign me up, I said, not knowing what I was getting myself into. Already done, she said, placing her phone down on her desk. That was the administrator I was messaging with just now. We go way back, so don't you do anything that will embarrass me. Okay? Not on penalty of failing my senior year, I said, a big grin on my face and my hand on my heart. Careful what you wish for, my class advisor laughed before shooing me out of her office. That weekend, I moved into my new quarters. The all-girls college was right next to our campus, so it wasn't much of a hassle going back and forth. Or so I thought. As soon as I got there, things already felt a little more awkward and inconvenient than I'd predicted. The moment I went through the gates of St. Agnes, I got stares from every student I passed. It was as if they'd never seen a boy in the flesh before. I had to go through 3 different offices just to prove I was who I said I was, and that I was there to take up the dorm manager's position. I was told I'd have to share my room, as the dorm I was assigned to was at full capacity. I was issued a card which allowed me to come and go from the campus without going through the entire process again. But the hassle was that I was the type to leave important things like IDs and keys all the time. Perhaps not the best quality as a dorm manager, you'd think. But I was prepared to deal with minor inconveniences if it meant I got to have the perks. Not to mention, coming from an all-boys college, it was a nice change to be hanging around girls. The administrator met me after I'd gotten my badge and keys. She rounded up all the girls in the dorm and introduced me to them. I'd never had that many pairs of girl eyes looking straight at me before. Talk about awkward. This is Andrew, said the matronly college administrator. She pushed on my back, forcing me to stumble a few steps forward before she whispered, Introduce yourself, boy. I scratched my head and stared at my shoes. Hi, Andrew Scott. I'll be your new dorm manager, I managed to say. Ew, a boy, said a voice from the back of the room. A fit of giggles erupted. When I looked up, the room had changed. Some girls fixed a look of derision at me. Most stared at me with googly eyes, and some still looked at me as if I was some sort of dessert. It was unnerving. And although I was beginning to appreciate getting attention from a building full of girls, being sized up by a bunch of girls out in the open like that was still rather nerve-wracking. As soon as the impromptu assembly dispersed, Miss Burbage, the administrator, introduced me to one of the seniors who was supposed to show me around. "Pleased to meet you, Andrew," she said with a smile. "I'm Kaylee." And then, as if she was feeling exactly like I did at that very moment, Kaylee blushed and began fiddling with the clipboard she was holding. She led me through the dorm halls, telling me all about the school's layout, where to get food, where the ATM was, the library. "The girls can be a bit much," she said, "but they're all pretty cool girls, and as long as you don't get in the way of the parties and whatnot, you'll be fine." "Parties?" I said, my ears perking up as if she'd just said the one word I was waiting to hear all day. "Oh, yeah, ragers. Officially, it's against campus rules, but, well, you know, who can really stop a bunch of teens from drinking and dancing to club music?" "Too true," I said, already planning on how to get an invite to said girl-filled parties. Kaylee stopped in her tracks, faced me, and put a loose strand of her curls behind her ear. "This one's your room," she said, cocking her head to one side, indicating which side of the corridor my door was on. "Room 13, I said. "Just my luck." "I'm just down the hall. Room 7, Kaylee said. "And don't worry about superstitions. Maybe you'll end up being lucky here anyway." As soon as she said that, she realized how it sounded. "Sorry," she said under her breath. I saw her face get red all over, before she quickly turned and ran, slamming her room door after shooting me an obviously embarrassed look. At first, I thought I'd be sharing with some sort of faculty assistant of another male member of staff. But learning that I was actually sharing with one of the students really threw me for a loop. Suddenly, I was thrown into living with a girl. A girl I barely knew, and a very strange girl at that. I'd never been in a situation where I'd have to share my room with a girl, being an only child, but she was probably the messiest girl I've ever met. She'd leave used clothing everywhere. Sometimes I had to pick up her laundry from the floor. And even at times when she wasn't in the room, I'd close my eyes when picking them up. As dorm manager, it was one of my responsibilities to make sure everyone was in by curfew. But Kelly was an absolute troublemaker. She'd sneak in and out most nights, coming home way past midnight. More often than not, all partied out. "You really shouldn't be climbing up the fire escape in those heels," I told her as I turned the lights on as she climbed through our room's window. "Oh, shush. I've been doing this for years," she said, waving me away. "Shouldn't you be asleep?" she said bossily. "Shouldn't you?" I said, trying to be stern. "You really should be setting a better example for the other girls. Just this week, more and more girls have started sneaking in and out because of you." "Me? What did I do?" she said with sleepy eyes, trying her best to look innocent. "I heard you were the one telling the first years about that gap in the campus walls," I said. "You know, you could get all caught. I'm telling Miss Burbage to have it fixed in the morning." Kelly rounded on me. "Who told you that?" "It was perfect Kaylee, wasn't it?" she said. "She's just kissing your behind because she has a massive crush on you. You know that, right?" I felt my cheeks get hot. I didn't know Kaylee liked me. I started to smile, and Kelly saw that. "Ooh!" she clapped happily. "Ooh, this is good. You like her too, don't you?" Kelly jumped on her bed and started dancing around. "Andrew has a crush! Andrew has a crush! I'm telling everyone!" And that was when Kelly dropped onto her bed. For a second, I thought she'd collapsed. But when I heard her start snoring like a bear, I knew she was gonna be fine. That night was the second night I caught her sleepwalking. She was mumbling something in her sleep, and it woke me up. "Crush. Andrew. Why not me?" she seemed to say. And then, out of the blue, she stood up, gathered all her sheets up into her arms, got a towel from a rack, began wearing it on her head like a turban, and ran into the door. She slammed into it 2 more times before I could stop her. Huh? She asked when she woke up, but before I could answer, she was already fast asleep again. Another time, I came home from a late night with my boys and found her sleeping next to a half-eaten steak. And one night, when I thought she was just chilling in front of her computer, I heard her coughing. That cough sounds bad, I told her. Said Kelly. You should at least have some water. Might help, I said. And then, to my confusion, she stood up, took a book from our shared bookcase, flipped to a page in the middle, and attempted to drink from the book. I nearly pissed myself laughing. She only woke up the morning after. The oddest instance of Kelly's sleepwalking happened a few months after we met. That night, I woke up to a persistent rustling sound. Kelly was trying to open a pack of chocolate chip cookies. In the heat of the summer evening, the chocolate chips had melted in her hand, dripping down her palm. She held it up to the sky for a good long minute before her hand came crashing down, slapping the gooey, melty cookies smack dab into my forehead. If my shock hadn't been a hindrance, I would have choked on my own laughter. Then Kelly waddled like a penguin back to her bed and continued to sleep as if nothing happened. The months passed, and although Kelly and the other girls were a chore to live with, they were proving to be quite fun. Even the sleepwalking was starting to feel like just a quirk instead of the usual annoyance. Until one day, when it brought me more trouble than I could have thought it would.